Okay, this is John from Clock Repairs Merseyside again. I just thought, again, while we had the chance, I would now show you the stand and the reasoning behind not using brackets or a stand that you'd buy online. As you can see, the weights on that clock, and it also has a mercury pendulum. The clock's just running at the moment, but it will be getting a service. And also on this particular clock, we're going to be doing some dial work. We've started to remove the numbers, the numerals, and then obviously that dial's going to be cleaned down and it's going to be resilvered. You've seen me do that type of thing before. Pretty much the similar procedure. I'm just going to go round, but as you can see, the weights are quite substantial. I think the larger weight, which is running the chime side of this clock, and this clock's got Whittington and Cambridge. Cambridge seems like a Westminster type chime to me. You know, with you sort of where you have your four, so on your quarter past, you'll have your hammers striking 4 times in effect in a row in a bar, and on that past it's 8, and it seems to be that to me. So I mean, I've no way of really work. We do have some chime bars there off another clock, which I might just hang somewhere and see what it sounds like. But yeah, that's pretty much the stand. I'm still a little bit concerned. I mean, I would imagine it's easily heavy enough, to be honest with you. I've put various markings here and there, and I'm going to see is there any movement, and if there is movement, obviously that's a concern. It's an old Fred Dibner trick, really, that type of thing, putting marks or bars in the wall and seeing them move and stuff like that. So, you know, up to now, there doesn't seem to be any movement at all. But yeah, it's a very, very substantial clock. It's probably, you know, for me, the weights, it's the biggest weights I've seen, except obviously on a turret clock. I mean, which, you know, I think that chime and weight there, I mean, I've seen turret clocks run with that type of thing. But yeah, it runs pretty well. Got your mercury pendulum at the back here. You know, you'd think to yourself about the amplitude, but obviously with a mercury pendulum, you wouldn't have it swinging wildly, would you? You know, you wouldn't have a lot of amplitude with it because, you know, it's full of mercury. But yeah, but that's really, this is only a quick video. I just wanted to show you. I mean, what we did do is, which wasn't before, which we never had the weights on, I've put some carriage bolts right through, a couple of washers, and I've put them right through because, and obviously tighten that together. Now the plan there is I can add a shoulder on if I need to, inside there, you know, that shoulder there literally can just be taken off. And then we've got this, because some clocks have bigger seat boards, you know, longer seat boards. So, you know, you don't need to have they have longer seat boards, and, you know, they're just a bit different. And so, and obviously we've cut out, like I said before there, because really important that a clock like this is pretty much central, so that your weight is downwards. It's a downward pressure, you know, because obviously you've got to understand when this type of clock strikes and chimes, you know, you've got some hammers up there and they're swinging away, and what you don't want is you don't want any movement back and forth, because if there was and the clock was front heavy or back heavy, it's just going to tip over in it, and this situation, it would be an absolute disaster for us, an absolute disaster. I mean, this clock is a very, very important clock to the client, very important indeed. And, you know, we've been entrusted with the servicing of it. There was another gentleman looking at it who I know quite a bit about, and he's a good guy. And I think he's getting a bit old now, and I think it's far too much for him, but he originally had the work for these. And I think he's at that point now where, you know, and I don't blame him on this, because it's quite a daunting task, this clock. you know, the weights are heavy. We had to collect, you know, take the movement downstairs, the weights, you know, the pendulum, you know, you've got that transportation of the mercury pendulum, you know, you've got to be careful how you do that. There's various methods with that, really. I mean, obviously putting in, obviously, a container to make sure it doesn't fall over, and, you know, we put it in a grill bucket with sand, just in case. But, you know, usually you're okay with them. The van we have now, I have a van which is now fully equipped to collect pretty much anything now, and we've got a lot of positions to tie things in to keep everything safe, because we're now really heavily into the antique restoration now. So we're working on cases, and we're doing all manner of stuff. I mean, the cases is probably prolific as the clock making now. We will eventually be moving away from the very small stuff. We're not quite ready just yet, but I can't see it being long now. It's simply a economical problem. It's difficult with some of them. I mean, you know, the amount of work you have to do, the way we want to do it anyway. We like to strip everything down, and we like to do it correctly. And, you know, for us to do that, we're just not getting the right kind of money to do that. And when you consider it takes us just as long, it takes us similar times to, say, do a convent, not this particular grandfather clock, because it's a bit more involved. But, you know, say an 8-day, for instance, I mean, we can strip it, clean it, put it back together, lubricate it in a day probably. And that's doing it properly, really stripping it down. We can probably do it in about a day. We then leave them on test we leave it on test with the dials off for about 4 or 5 days, and then we'll probably leave it with the dial on for about a week. And then once we're happy and there's been no problems, it goes back to the customer. But yeah, I just thought I'd chime in again. So yeah, the stand seems pretty decent up to now. It seems to have moved away. I'll just show you. I'll just move this clock up to strike. Let you have a look at it running away. So as you can see about the hammers, the way they're bouncy, because they're on, like, you know, flat metal. So as they're bouncing away, you can imagine if you'd had a stand that was a bit forward heavy or whatever, that clock would be on its face on the floor, and mercury would be everywhere, and we'd be getting sued. So, you know, pretty decent clock. Really the type of stuff I enjoy working on, even though they can be quite daunting at times. I mean, Steve who works with us went, oh God, rather you than me. But I honestly, I really don't mind. I really don't. So, anyway, this is another short video. John from Clock Repairs Merseyside. And my idea of a substantial clock stand. I certainly, I mean, if you put that clock on one of the ones you can buy online, it would flat pack it in about 5 seconds flat. The movement itself, just without the weight, will flat pack it. The movement is really heavy, very heavily made, of solid, obviously solid brass, but really heavily made. So there we have it. Anyway, have a great evening. This is John from Clock Repairs Merseyside. Thank you.